to Qwick Talks, a podcast where I kind of get more intimate on more serious issues on a one-on-one basis. My name is Quinton, and the very first topic we'll be talking about is parental trauma. Parental trauma is one of those things where we all have experienced it in some way, shape, or form, but we tend to excuse it because the person doing the damage is someone we care about tremendously. We care about them so much that we're willing to put our mental or even our physical health at risk. And when we survive it, we often do, because parental trauma can present itself in a physical aspect, but it also can present itself in a mental aspect. First, let me define what parental trauma is. Parental trauma is trauma forced upon, or essentially forced upon you by a parental figure, whether it's your biological parents, your step parents, your legal guardians, or anyone who has sovereignty over you. The trauma can be neglect, physical, mental, or financial abuse, or abandonment. Oftentimes, especially in my community, one of the number one forms of parental trauma you will see is parental abandonment. Oftentimes, men, more often than women, but women also will abandon their child for various reasons. And by doing so, it puts the kid at a severe disadvantage. We know for a fact that dual parent households are more productive, they're more supportive, and the kids on average go on to do better in life. And the reason why that is because when raising a kid is difficult. I have 3 sons, and sometimes you get frustrated, you get tired. Having that secondary person can ease that burden. Also, having 2 incomes can make it very easy to take care of that child. When that burden is on one parent, that tends to be a lot of frustration, a lot of anger. The discipline becomes more physical. The love, it's kind of hard to balance that love and disciplinary role. And you find yourself being in a situation where it's not conducive for proper child rearing. And on top of that, for the child themselves, the kid end up feeling unwanted, unloved, and as that child grows, they find themselves looking for love in all the wrong places. They either fall in love with someone who does not care about them, and they end up devoting all of their time, almost as a caretaker, to nurture and care for that person in the hopes that that person will love them and never leave them. Or they will find someone who mistreats them and they feel like they deserve it. Then you have the physical abuse, the physical trauma. That one's very difficult because oftentimes when parents get frustrated, they feel like their only option is to strike their child. Now, a pat on the bottom, or a couple of hits on the rear end, open hand, or something like that, that's completely fine. I don't see any issue with that. I'm an 80s baby. Sometimes kids don't listen to verbal. You have to kind of correct. But when you start using switches or extension cords of things of that nature, it can go too far, because now you're hitting the kid out of anger, and it can make the child question your love for them. And oftentimes we will say, I'm doing this because I love you. And so you're creating a correlation between physical discipline and love. And so sometimes people will seek out abusive relationships in order for them to feel love. And when they get someone who is understanding, who is caring, they will sidestep that person because their view of love is warped. So oftentimes we have to ask ourselves, as parents, is that the best option at that time for that child? Because all kids are different. Some kids are hard-headed. You may have to discipline a different type of way. But some kids are starting talking to, grounding. Nowadays, you can take their phones. You can turn off the Wi-Fi. That is just as effective as the old school, belt or, whatever the case may be. Then you have parental neglect. Those are for that type of trauma. What that does is it makes the kids feel alone, and they will turn into people pleasers. So parental neglect can manifest as you're always dropping your child off at the grandparents' house. You're always finding any excuse not to actually be a parent, to do whatever. You're partying and leaving your kids at home. There was even a story where a woman went on a cruise. She went on a cruise and she left her kids at home in Ohio. And you can say, how can a person do that? But again, harkening back to raising a kid alone. When the child has been abandoned by one parent and all the stress on the other parent, some people don't have that mental fortitude in a break. And so they end up seeking self-gratification instead of sacrificial love that most parents preach and live by. Because once you have a child, that's it. That kid is yours. Your responsibility, your time, your energy, your effort is to that kid. And when a child has neglect and they grow up, they people please, they do anything just to be loved, to be cared for. And that puts us in a very, very, very dangerous position. It puts them, I should say, in a very dangerous position because people will take advantage of it. As we know in life, people take advantage of almost any situation that benefits them. And so parents of old, Gen X, even millennials, and the upcoming generation, you really have to think about what are you doing when you're bringing a child into the world, and what is that doing to that child? Most of us millennials, we came from the generation of physical discipline, corporal punishment, even our parents saying hurtful things to us. How many of you guys out there who've been called a name by your parents? Whether it's shut your black behind up, if you're a little chunky, oh my God, you fat and you lose some weight. It's one thing to be honest and truthful to your kid. It's another thing to be cruel. And the worst of all the type of abuses, in my opinion, is SA. When a parent take their love too far, to the point where it becomes carnal, we have a problem. That's a sickness. And what that does to that person, that innocent soul that you're supposed to be taking care of, is a wound that often you can't sew up. It takes so much therapy. It takes so much time, so much energy to fix. As someone who has been through so much as a kid, things that some people don't know, some things that people do knows, I can tell you right now, there's certain wounds that always eats away at you. And not having that parental figure or figures beside you to support you can leave you feeling alone in a world that's so vast. that is so cold at times that you often either become very rigid with your emotions, or you become essentially a doormat for everyone to use, because at least you're being used. And that is the thing we must fix. We gotta fix that. We gotta do better. Just saying I did the best I can isn't good enough. It truly isn't good enough. But especially in an era where we have access to technology, AI, books. If you don't know how to deal with a certain type of child, one of my kids has autism. And me and his mother, we learned how to navigate that. It wasn't necessarily easy, but thank God he's high functioning, and we learned how to work around his unique characteristics. I have an adult son. You guys probably know him from the podcast Generation Me. He's an adult. My hold on him, my influence on him is not as strong as it was when he was younger, because he's developing his own mind, his own beliefs. And that's one thing that parents, I feel like from yesteryear, have a hard time with. They don't understand that kids are their own people. It is our job to guide, support, yes, discipline, and nurture them. But it is not our job to traumatize them, SA them, use them as personal mules to do things for us that we don't want to do. That's not what a parent is. And if you think that that's what a parent is, I don't know what to tell you. All I know, I can tell you what will happen. You will end up creating a child with so many emotional deficits that they will end up with a person or in situations that they should never have been in, and that they should never have gone through, because all the mental barriers that should have been there, all the parental direction that should have been given was not given. And that person will end up a broken and essentially a half of a human. They'll be missing the other side of them. And so now I'll speak to the men specifically. It is our job to be the bumpers in our kids' life. It is our job to make sure they don't go too far to the edge and fall over. We are guides to life. The women we procreate with, they introduce that life. They create that life. We guide that life until they become self-sufficient human beings. When you decide to lay down and create a child, it is your duty, it is your job to take care of it. Shifting blames is not the answer. Sure, I know there's special circumstances where someone never wanted a kid in the first place, but there are preventative measures that you can do to prevent that from happening. You didn't do it, you were not thinking, and you made a child who did not ask to be here. And the best gift you could have given that child is to not be there for it. It doesn't make any sense. The world is so backwards right now. You see these kids are acting foolish. They have a term called YNs nowadays, right? Oh, YN behavior. In a community where fathers are present, there will be no YNs, because dads will shut that down immediately. Kids need two parents. It takes two to make them. It takes two to raise them. I don't care what anyone says. It's simply a fact. I don't care if I prefer it to be a mother-father combination, or whatever your preference, father, mother. Kids need two individuals in their lives. In fact, they need more than two. They need a village. There's a reason why they say it takes a village to raise a child. Do you know why that is? It is because parents have to work. When parents are working, where is the child? They usually stay with their grandparents if they're young or they're in school. That teacher is watching that child, making sure they're okay, making sure they're safe, making sure they're learning, they're fed. And then when you're in a small town like where I grew up in, like in Camilla, Georgia, shout out to Camilla, shout out to Savannah, shout out to Thomasville. My mom knew what I was doing even when she was at work, even when she was at home, because she had made inroads with neighbors, school teachers, and different people so that she's aware of what her son was doing. That's how you make sure a child stays on the straight and narrow. But back to the men. Your job is to raise that child. The Bible says, train up a child in the way that he should go, so when he is old, he will not depart from it. We oftentimes think that kids are not listening to us, but they're listening to everything we say. But most importantly, they listen to everything we're doing. If what I say and what I do are not congruent, it will create dysfunction in that child's mind. And they will often gravitate towards what I did versus what I said. Most of us can tell you what someone did to us. Most of us can tell you that. But we oftentimes can't tell you what someone said verbatim, unless it was so egregious we had no choice but to remember it. So men, I ask you, I'm begging you, stay in your kids' lives. Please. They need it, especially these boys. There's nothing worse than seeing a young boy grow up without a father figure, especially the father figure that made him. He has to seek it out someplace else, and he falls into the arms of the wrong type of male influence. That's sad to me. As a basketball coach, as a mentor of young men, as a father of 3 boys, I've taken many kids under my wing to ensure they stay safe from the streets. I opened up my home to people. I made meals for kids just to show them that they deserve to be loved. Because I would hope that someone would do the same thing for mine. And I know people have done that for me when I was growing up. And now to the women. I'm not a woman, clearly. But I have a reverence for the women in my life. Especially for the black women that help produce me. They help raise me. My grandma Lucia, my mom Ruthie, my auntie Gwen, my auntie Gloria. You know, some of my mentors, Commander Molly Cook, Commander Leticia Banker. Like I have so many that I can name that have helped me along the way, that taught me a lot of things. So I feel like I can speak from that perspective. Being a woman is not easy. Being a woman is dangerous. Being a woman is painful. But God made y'all special. He made y'all in a way that y'all can produce life. There's only 2 entities that can create life in this world. That's the female species and God himself. And you guys are special. And I think you guys have forgotten that over the years. You've forgotten how special you really are. That you're just willfully giving away what makes you special to the wrong type of men. You're lacking discernment. You're using these instead of using this and this to figure it out. These 2 have to be in agreement. It don't matter what this say. It doesn't matter what this sees. Like my mom says, not everything that glitters is gold. And when you make that mistake and you lay down with a man that does not care about you, that poured into you and gave you a gift, a miracle, a child, and he ultimately leaves your life, I ask that you don't let bitterness grow in your heart towards all men, because not all men is that man. I ask that you be smarter next time, because as you already know, the ones with kids, it is very difficult and it's unfair. But what's more unfair is is for you to continue doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Lead with your mind and heart. Lead with your mind first, your heart second. But also look at these people's actions and think to yourself, would I want my child to be grown from a seed that's so maligned, that's so bad? You can see it. It is very difficult for a person to hide their true intentions, their behaviors. Look at their friends. They'll give you an idea of who they are. Look at their living situations. Look at their mentality. What are they doing? Are they ambitious? Are they in the streets? Are they clean cut? I'm not talking about physical. When I'm saying clean cut, I'm saying they're above board. They're not here killing, selling, hurting anyone. They're just trying to survive like everyone else. Be smart. Because most of us who grow up with just their mothers, it is the trauma from you that sits with us. Yes, we feel abandoned by that man that wasn't there. But it's a trauma that you do to us. The names you call, the stuff you say, it hurts. It hurts a lot. And you will breed hate and contempt into your male kids, and you will make your daughters hate men and potentially miss out on a person that could love them so completely, all because they hear you say, man ain't S. Men are useless. Men are not needed. Some men are not living up to their potential, but so are women. There are men who aren't worth anything because they decided to not be worth anything. But it doesn't mean that they all are. And don't forget that son you raising is a man in training. And you can't split hairs and say all men are bad, but then forget about the very man that's watching you say this. Because boys grow into men. And that man would take that self-hate with him throughout his life. And it will manifest in getting with a woman who's going to treat him the way you're treating him. Or that he would get with he would start to hate women and then mistreat them and become the very thing that hurt you. So you must be very careful. It is not easy for you. And I'm not saying it is. But your discernment will prevent you from falling into a cycle of bad decisions, bad choices, bringing a kid into a very destructive situation. We can break this pattern. We can stop parental traumas. We can stop it. But it takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of self-control. It takes some discernment. It takes some self-inflection. You have to love yourself. You have to love yourself more than what society says you should. You have to care about yourself. You're worth it. Women out there, you are worth it. And I'm not saying this to pander. I'm saying this because it's true. Why do men seek you out? You can say it's for, carnal reasons. You can say it's for, grown people reasons. But if men understand the value of women in their lives. You guys balance us out. When you have a woman that loves you so completely, there's nothing like it. It makes you want to give her the world. So that's why women have to be very careful, because that kid sees you, and that daughter watches every decision you make. That son watches everything you say about men, about the man who made him. You call that man trash, but you chose that trash. You went to the junkyard and you laid down with it, but somehow you supposed to smell fresh and clean. That's not how that works. We have to be better at this. We're hurting our next generation the same way we were hurt. I can't tell you how much work I had to do to get over some of the things that happened to me in my life. Because I didn't want to inflict the same type of pain onto my kids that was afflicted upon me. My mom did do the best she can do. My dad wasn't a bad man. I'm actually blessed to know my parents. My parents were in the same house at one point, and technically they are still married. But there was a lot of things I was needing from both of them that I really didn't get. I don't have any hate or anger in my heart because I know their intentions, but I also know what I needed. I wasn't a bad kid. It didn't take much, for me to course correct. It really didn't. Like telling your kid you love them can do wonders. Like telling you love them and meaning it. I can tell you the first time my father said he loved me. I can tell you the most impactful time he said he loved me. I was 18 years old. I was in the Navy, and we were riding down dirt road, and I think it was Metcalf Avenue. He had a white F-150, and he told me he was proud of me. And he told me he loved me, and that was the first time he had said both those things at once, and it meant a lot. You don't know how much it means, man, when you tell your kid you love them. Society tells us that men are not supposed to have emotions, but then they tell us that men are emotionless, but you can't, it's incongruent. I'm telling you here, men can have emotion. They have to have emotional control, sure. But men are supposed to have emotions because if they was not supposed to, they wouldn't have them. A man is an XY chromosome. We have our mothers in our blood. We're allowed to be emotional. We have to control that emotion because with our emotion comes that Y chromosome. That's that strength, that's that testosterone, that's that anger, and that can get people hurt. But we're allowed to have our emotions, and that's where the woman comes in, and she kind of gives us a safe place to be emotionally vulnerable. But hearkening back to fathers and loving their kids, it's important. Fathers show their daughters how they should be treated. Fathers show their son how to treat women. Mothers show their son what to expect from a woman. And mothers show their daughters how they should be in a relationship with a man that cares. That's how we start to heal. If hurt people, then healed people heal people. Thank you guys for tuning in for Qwick Talks. I look forward to hearing from you. Please subscribe to Generation Me. Like, comment, tell a friend to tell a friend. And I hope to see you guys on the next one. Take care.